All right there. So I'm going to go over the code that I did today in class. We were looking at the assignment. Right here, here's the sixth block. Cleaning up the resetAliens function. This might not be the best name for this, but anyway, I'm going to go with it. Our current setup is not handling the reset of opponent vehicles after a player loses a life correctly. We will add some code that will determine which enemy ships have been eliminated and set their respective game object to null. This will line up the enemy ships to scroll back on the screen with no delay or gaps. So here's what's going on right now. If I get in here and I play the game, and if I shoot like the first one and the second and the third, ooh, look at that, the fourth and even the fifth, that nice. I got the first five. That's pretty good. And I'm going to die. I shot the first five ships. When I press this G key now, I'm going to have to wait and wait and wait and wait and wait until that sixth ship comes back out. Now let me die again. Now I'm going to press the G key again, and I'm going to have to wait a real long time now, and wait and wait and wait. These ships are not resetting the way I wanted them to reset. I wanted them to reset so that they would appear, like after I press that G key, they would immediately scroll back onto the screen. Also, if I shoot like, not the first one, but let's say the second, and okay, the second one will have to do. Look, there's a big gap here between the first one and the second one. It's like this. Let me try again here. I want to try to shoot that one. Good. I got two of them. All right. That one, good. Now press the G key. I'm going to have a big gap between the little poodle and the black jet craft. See, there's a big gap there. And then between the helicopter and this Millennium Falcon thing, and also the little puppy now is now lined up with another ship. Now the little puppy and another ship are lined on top of each other. This is all bad. We can't be having this happen. So we're going to fix all this. It's going to involve some functions here. We're going to begin right here with these enemy ships. First, I want to rename all of these. I want to change all the names. Right now, they go from enemy ship 1 to enemy ship 9. I want to make them go from enemy ship 0 to enemy ship 8. So I'm going to change that 1 into a 0, and then a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. This is all going to make some sense later. Change all those names. Enemy ship 0 to enemy ship 8. That's the first step. Then when we add these ships, if you want to, you can collapse the start function, the setup function, the game function, handle lose audio delay, key down. You can close all of these. Setup HUD, update score, fire projectile, leave move projectile open. We're going to need that one. Let's see, check clicking, not going to need that. Mouse up, mouse down, not interested. Add enemy ships. This is where we're going to end up here. That's where we're going to do some work right now. Since we changed all the name of those ships, right here, when we load those enemy ships, 0, 1, 2, 3, up to 8, we have to load them all. And see, like right now, we have a syntax error. The reason why is when we change the names of those enemy ships, we no longer have an enemy ship 9. Enemy ship 9 kind of turned into enemy ship 0. So we're going to have to fix that. Right in here, we're going to change that ship 1 to a 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. And now when I run my code, it's back to working. Okay, so I broke it for just a moment, but I've still got that problem. If I press go here now, notice there's a big gap between the fish and Kevin's, and I died. So that was the first move. Now, all we did here is we changed the names of these enemy ships. And as each of these are being made, some stuff is happening. And I'm going to very carefully get inside of this first one right here when I mod 9 is equal to 0. I'm going to put a comment right here. Load the image for the enemy ship. Now, that's what's happening on this line of code. Creates a variable, and it loads one of those new web images for those enemy ships, 0 through 8. But after this line of code, I want to put another new line of code here, and this will be enemy ship. Oops. Put a comment here first. We're going to set the ship number. We need to figure out which enemy ship we hit, and this is going to allow us to identify the individual enemy ships. So I'll have the enemy ship, and I'm going to go dot is ship 0 equals true. I'm creating a Boolean variable here. Enemy ship dot is ship 0 equals true. This is creating a Boolean variable here, and this particular ship, ship 0, is going to get tagged is ship 0. Then I'm going to copy this comment, and in each of these if statements, else if statements, I'm going to paste that comment about loading the image for the enemy ship. That's what I'm doing in every single one of these spots. I'm loading an image of an enemy ship, and I really should have a comment there explaining what I'm doing. And after pasting those comments, I'm going to copy both of these lines of code, set the ship number, and enemy ship dot is ship 0 equals true. And in this first else if, I'm going to hit the enter key and paste it and change ship 0 to ship 1. The enemy ship 2, I'm going to paste it again and set ship 0 to ship 2. For enemy ship 3, I'm going to paste it again and set ship 0 ship 3. For enemy ship 4, do you see the pattern? Here's ship 4. Enemy ship 5 is ship 5. Enemy ship 6 is ship 6. Enemy ship 7 is ship 7. And enemy ship 8 is ship 8. This is going to tag every single one of these ships with their individual ship numbers. Not only that, the addShip function then takes each enemy ship and sets their size to the enemy ship width, their height to the enemy ship height. It sets their positions. It tags every single one of them gets tagged is enemy ship. That's set equal to true. So every one of the ships is tagged is enemy ship. That's how we knew in the first place we'd hit an enemy ship, because we were looking at an element and we determined that the element was tagged is enemy ship. Then we store the enemy ship in the enemy ship array in the ith location. Remember, that's this for loop up here. This for loop's got a variable I, and we're using that variable I. We use that variable I to determine which image we're going to load in the ship. We use that variable I to position in X the ships. Our X position is determined by the variable I. When X is 0, we got X position of screen width plus 0 times 100, so screen width. When I equals 1, we're going to get an X position of screen width plus 1 times 100, or 1,100, or screen width plus 100, and so on. And we also generate a random Y value so that our enemy ships have a random Y spawn point. So with the addEnemyShip function set up here and all labeled, everything should still be running. We should still be able to fly and shoot and die. However, those gaps, like I've shot the first 3, there's 4, 5, I shot the first 5. Now I'm going to shoot the cloud. No, I won't. There's the first one, the little puppy. But there's this huge gap till we get to this one right there. And then some of these are even messed up. But like I said, we're going to get all that fixed later. So everything should still be working. It's still got the same glitch. But we've set the stage here. We've now stored, when we're creating each enemy ship, we've stored which ship number they are in each individual ship that gets stored in the enemy ship array. Now, from here, we need to go follow a little path, It's the path of, well, if I go back up a little bit here to the moveProjectile function, I want you to imagine, we're on the screen here and the player has fired a projectile and the projectile is moving on the screen. The moveProjectile function gets called by the game loop every frame, and it checks to see if there are any active projectiles. And if a projectile is not equal to null, that means there is an active projectile on the screen. So the first thing it does is it moves the projectile. And mine also gives it a little rotation. So it moves the projectile if the projectile was not equal to null. It exists, it'll move it, it'll rotate it. Also, it checks to see if the projectile has gone off screen. It's looking at the projectile's X position. If that's bigger than the width of the screen plus the radius of the projectile, well, the projectile has gone off the screen. So it removes the projectile and sets it equal to null. However, if the projectile has not gone off the screen, all that gets skipped. And this if statement right here will end on that curly brace. And the next if statement's like going, okay, if the projectile is not equal to null, well, if we got out of there and it was not equal to null, it's still not equal to null. And so now we know that the projectile got moved. We need to see if it hit something now that we've moved it. Didn't move off screen. Well, did it hit something? So we're going to get from the projectile, a test X and a test Y. This is looking at the projectile's X position, plus this 10 plus 1 is going to get us to 1 pixel past the edge of the projectile image. We don't want to be testing where the projectile image is actually at. We want to be 1 pixel off of the image. And that will guarantee I'm 1 pixel off the image. And a test Y, which we're going to get directly from the projectile's Y position. With the test X and test Y, we put those two variables right here into this function call, and we are going to get an element at that X and Y, and we're going to store that element that we get. We get an element at, that's a function in JavaScript. It's going to get an element at a local X and a local Y, and it's going to store it in this variable called testElement. We also set this variable here, checkProjectile to true, which I should say, it's a Boolean that allows checking projectile collisions. So we set that to true because we're going to be checking for projectile collisions. So we got a test element, and we've set a Boolean variable to let us check for projectiles. And so we take that test element and we plug it in here and send it off to the checkElement function. So now it's getting sent to the checkElement function. It's got an element, a test element, which was a getElement at some location real close to the projectile. And we're going to go see what did it hit, or if it even hit anything. So we go down to checkElement. And I can collapse the lose function. I can collapse the win function. I'm going to need moveEnemyShips. We'll come back to that later. I can collapse clear screen, check collisions. Here's checkElement. So in the checkElement function, it receives an element. That testElem gets sent down here, and that testElement comes in and is given the name element. That element is stored in this local variable we call elm. And elm then gets checked. If it's null, didn't hit anything. The return sends us back and we're done. However, if it's not null, it's something, it hits something, the element is something, we check, is it an enemy ship, is it a terrain, and is checkEnemyShip true? And none of that should be true. Well, yeah, none of that should be true. And so we won't be checking for collision with the terrain. But then we come down here, is elm.isEnemyShip, is that true? And is checkProjectile equal to true? Now those are the conditions. If the element is labeled isEnemyShip, and if the Boolean variable checkProjectile is true, and that was just set in the moveProjectile function, we got stuff to do. All of these things that we did. But even before we do all those things, there's a new function in the code. If you'll scroll down, you'll see there's this function called getShipNumber. It's right after checkElement. getShipNumber doesn't have any executable code in it. but we're going to start putting some executable code in it real quick, because right here we need to find out which ship got hit. And so that's going to be a call to getShipNumber, and we're going to pass that variable elm. This elm right here is going to get sent to this function getShipNumber. That elm is the same element right here. Elm is the same element that gets sent to checkElement. So it started in the move projectile function. It was called testElement, testElm, in the move projectile function. It started this journey right here. It was called testElm, and it gets sent to the checkElement function. At the checkElement function, it arrives, and the function gives it the name element. And that element then is stored in this local variable, elm. We did some checks on elm, and it turns out that elm was involved in a collision with an enemy ship, and check projectile was true. So we're going to send off this function call to get ship number and figure out what ship did we get hit. Because if that was an enemy ship, it's got a tag telling me which number it is. I just got to find what's the tag? What is it tagged with? That's where we get down here. We're going to have a new variable that we're going to call ship, and it will be equal to that variable element. And then what we're going to have to look at here is if this ship is tagged is ship 0. If the ship is tagged is ship 0, then I want to set the enemy ship array in the 0 position to null. Now, the way this is written right here, if ship dot is ship 0, it's the same as equals equals true. This is the exact same. So this would be read ship dot is ship 0. Is it equal to true? It's the same as just having ship dot is ship all by itself. Ship dot is ship all by itself asks the same question. Is it equal to true? People who are just beginning to learn how to program, they'll use equals equals true. But if you're not a baby programmer anymore, you need to learn the shortcuts. And this is one of those shortcuts in coding that coders are going to use, so you know what it means. Now, there's all these other locations right here. And notice the comments. The comments can kind of help guide you. But I'm going to go ahead and copy this block, ship dot is ship 0. And I'm going to replace this next true with that. And I'm going to change that 0 to a 1. Place the next true, change the 0 to a 2. The next true, and a 3. The next true, and a 4. The next true, and 5. The next true, 6. Next true, and 7. Next true, and an 8. And I've reached the end of the array. So those are all the ship.is ships, going from is ship 0 to is ship 8. Now, I get to recycle this line of code right here. And I get to paste it right here, and I change the 0 to a 1. Right here, paste it, change the 0 to a 2. Paste it, change the 0 to a 3. Paste it, change the 0 to a 4. Paste it, change the 0 to a 5. Paste it, change the 0 to a 6. Paste it, change the 0 to a 7. And paste it, change the 0 to an 8. Now we got a syntax error, by the way. We're going to get a syntax error because this function is now going to get called. In the checkElement function, when we've hit an enemy ship and check projectile is true, getShipNumber is going to send off Elm and find out what ship got hit. And when it finds out what ship got hit, it's going to set that ship to be equal to null. And we're going to get a syntax error. So, it might look pretty good here. I can miss. Oops, but I didn't miss. I thought I could miss, but I didn't miss because somebody creeped in from the side. It says, cannot read properties of null, reading move. What happened was I shot one of the enemy ships. And when I shot that enemy ship, getShipNumber, it detected it, and it set the enemy ship to null in the position of the array where I shot it. And so I have to handle this. So where I'm going to go to from here is up to the moveEnemyShips. Now here in moveEnemyShips, we got a for loop here in moveEnemyShips. This for loop's going to go through the enemy ship array. It's going to move every enemy ship. But now some of our enemy ships, after we shoot them, are going to be null. And so this function needs to kind of be clued in about that. It needs to be told about that some things are going to become null. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click right here at the comment, move the enemy ships. And I'm going to go down to this first of 3 closing curly braces. So can you see all the code that I have highlighted here? With all that code highlighted, I'm going to press the tab key one time. I'm going to put all of that whole block of code, I'm going to put it inside of an if statement. So getting right here, I'm going to hit the enter key and I'm going to put a comment. Check if enemy ship is active, not null. And so that's going to be an if enemy ship is not equal to null. There we go. So I've got an if statement. If this enemy ship is not equal to null, that means it's active. Then I'm going to want to move it and I'm going to want to wrap it if I need to. But we've created a problem here. Now I've got a unexpected end of input. And that's because every opening curly brace needs a closing curly brace. So if you tabbed all this code over like I asked you to, you're going to see this little rubber band right here. And it's going down, 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 right to where I want to have a parenthesis. Now I don't want it right there. That would be the wrong spot. It might line up, but it'll be in the wrong spot. I'm going to get my cursor on the other side of the closing curly brace of this if. See how their boxes are like brown, kind of like highlighted in like a dark gray? And if I collapse them, there they are, close down. Collapse those. So I'm right here, and I'm going to hit my enter key, and I'm going to type a closing curly brace, and the editor automatically moved the curly brace into the correct spot. And now that's going to be kind of it. I just shot the first 2 and a third, a couple in the middle here. And so I'm going to crash. All right, now press the G key. They scroll right on. There's no big gaps. They all 5 came. Let me shoot one of these from the middle. One of the middle ones if I can. There we go. I got one of the middle ones. And then let me crash and die. Press the G button, and here they come. They are all lined up. No more gaps. All right. So that's the code that I did today. We had to do a lot of copying and pasting. And we even had to create new if statements and tab code over. And remember, this is YouTube. You can pause me at any time and slow me down. And we'll see you in class. And don't forget to like and subscribe. Thanks now.